to take some dead food and make it living. Basically, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put salt on this and let living bacteria cultivate this into living food for a few days in the refrigerator so that we can kind of control what type of bacteria or fungi will be initially rapidly populating this meat. We don't have control over the types of bacteria, so botulism is a big concern. And the main thing that would help you with this is sea salt. So I don't normally measure how much that I use, so I will count the number of tablespoons that I'm using as I am doing this. So the main thing is, I've noticed through looking at scientific studies about processed foods like sausages, meats, and other things, that it's very bad for your health. And I took a trip to China one time. It's where I met my wife. And we went to her hometown, and they had their own sausages, and they were living to an old age in her village. Well, they prepare their sausages and their meats with salt. They don't put any preservatives in it, and that will allow bacteria to populate the meat, and it essentially makes it living. Now, again, there is always the case that you could get botulism, but this process has been done for centuries in various cultures, including China. So let's go ahead and get started. I'll go ahead and start with getting some of the spices. These are not important. I've just got some white pepper here that I'm going to put on it, and some oregano. And I'll just cover that. The amounts will be to your taste, just how you like it. I also have a little bit of a mixed Italian seasoning to give some other herbs into the mixture. And these will basically just be your vitamins. Like, for instance, I was making alcohol. You can add ginger into your alcohol without cooking it, and it will give the yeast bacteria vitamins for them to be able to populate and make a stronger alcohol. So let's go ahead and get started with the salt. So I use 3. You might be able to go down to 2 tablespoons. But if it's too salty, when your end product is done, you will want to boil some water and let it sit in water for a few minutes, and then pour that water out. Then you can use it for however you want to cook. If you're using it for soups, you could probably just cook it directly. But what's going to happen is this is going to be put in the refrigerator for a few days. Then I live in Texas, so this is the perfect time to do this is around January, February time frame, because it stays cooler. But because I live near Dallas, Texas, the temperature swings quite a bit. So what I like to do is to take and smoke it a little bit, and I'll show you a little later on in another video how I smoke it without buying a smoker. So when you have your spices coated, then you want to get it mixed real well, and you just do that with your hands. So we'll go ahead and do this and get it all over in the creases everywhere. I also previously cut this so when you're drying it, you can hang it so that it stays open and there's no hidden parts. The salt will also prevent bugs from getting into it, but this time of year, which is why it's best, is there's very few things that will mess with it. So after you got it rubbed really good, then we can take it and put into the refrigerator for a few days. So I brought this out to show you that this is pork belly, which aka bacon. That's what bacon's made out of. And we preserve this. So the smell will be very important to tell you whether it is a good piece of dried meat. It's now been a few days since the chicken has been curing in the refrigerator, so it should be well populated with the helpful bacteria that you want. So now it's time for the drying process. I was going to show you how to smoke it, but right now in Texas it's cool enough that we can go ahead and dry it. So I have previously smoked some other dried meats so in order to have something different for my family, we're going to just dry this. But I will go ahead and show you how I do it without having a smoker. So you'll need a couple of things for this. You'll want to have some kind of sticks or skewers to keep the chicken open so it'll dry evenly. So we'll go ahead and take this chicken and we'll just run a skewer through it and just to keep it open, and we have that. Now I previously cut some cotton string. This will be necessary to find it as the ones that you use for food. And I just take a chopstick and poke a hole with the string through, and then I kind of just keep it didn't go all the way through, so I just keep poking it through till I eventually get it on the other side. And then I just I just take both of those strings and then tie a knot. And you will make sure that knot's holding pretty good. So just shake it a little bit to make sure that it can hold before you hang it up. So now sometimes it'll go through with just one try, if you're having too hard of a time, you could always drill a hole into it like a needle and string it that way. So now we'll go ahead and hang this outside, and I will set it up and show you that process. Okay, this is what I had my oldest boy make after losing a previous work due to dogs not being either dropped off or not being kept in a pen. But I basically, for this, I use some these little clamps right here. For this stuff here that's a little bit older, it's a little bit more dry. It's pretty much finished after today. I just wired it up with baling wire. So down here I have the chicken that I want to dry, and then I'll just use this baling wire here and wire it up. So the larger meats, the ones that you see over in the center, they've been drying for about a day. The larger the meat, the thicker the meat, the longer it'll take to dry. So okay, I'll just go ahead and raise this up. I basically just wrapped it around the tree several times until it had enough friction to hold. I'll tie it a little bit more tight when I have it up there, that way I don't, a wind or some kind of microburst don't take away your meat. Okay, that's basically it. So it's hanging up there, ready to dry. Let's go ahead and show you. And that's pretty high up there. So I'll go ahead and show you what I do to smoke my meat. And I just have a old barbecue pit. And in this barbecue pit, I use this Dutch oven right here, which is filled with my last coals from my last wood, and I used mesquite to smoke it. I like the flavor of mesquite a lot. So if you've got dried branches, you can light the fire in this Dutch oven, and then you control it by how much space you leave for air to go through. So if you got too little air, it'll put out. If you got too much of air, it'll start to try to cook it, and you don't want to cook it. You want to have it a smoke where when you feel it, it might be slightly warm, but it's not that warm. So you'll have to keep an eye on it and adjust it as you go along. And that's basically what I do. After cleaning this, I put the meat on the grate and let it smoke for a while. And then I'll also control it a little bit with these little vents on either side of this.